who you are a bit. So a bit of your biography, who you are, when you came to faith, some of your family story, and how you came to be a missiologist. I mean, that's just one of the many hats that you wear, but let's focus on that one. How did you get to where you're at right now?
All right. Well, I grew up in northern Saskatchewan, and so basically go to North Dakota and keep going and going and going and going and going. And so my pastor was Henry Blackaby and Jack Connor, two of them. And so if you've done Experiencing God, you've read a little bit about that. Probably most people have an exaggerated idea of what that was. And actually it was a couple churches that took it at their responsibility to get the gospel out to every village, every town, every city. And so people respond to the gospel all the time. There was a little Bible school that was in the basement. People were trained, they were sent out. And on its best Sunday, Faith Baptist Church in Saskatoon was probably never more than 175 people, less than that usually. And but if you look at the leaders across Canada, many of them have come from that church. It was a very kingdom-centric church. It was always sort of not saving itself, but giving itself away. And so that was a memory that was, had a big impression on me. I sensed a call into ministry as a young man, went prepared, went to university in Bolivar, Missouri, Southwest Baptist University, went to seminary, got an MDiv, and then I kind of forgot about my lineage, and I saw all the sexy churches that were starting, and real kind of saw what we were doing as, old fashioned, old hat, whatever, what I'd grown up with. And so I was all over this new stuff. And so I planted a church in Calgary, Alberta. And in my mind, I had this script: you're going to love this church. You're going to love this church. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. And we planted a church that people loved. But when I began to ask for sacrifice, like we're going to actually go and plant another church from us over here in this other area, all of a sudden I changed the script, and you're saying we're going to love this church, and you're asking me to do something I hate. This is wrong. And so I created a church with funky DNA, and so God used that to say, all right, remember your history, remember your lineage. And so I went actually from there to Toronto, and we started a church. This time we had three families, and we said three Christian families. We had no resourcing. We were literally living in a hippie commune, 14 people and a dog in a 1,300 square foot condo. And we had no plans on how to get out of that because we had no financing behind us or anything. And but the only thing we knew is we weren't going to let Christians in. And we started this church just through evangelism. And I love to tell you that whole story, but that'll take a while. But we started this church that we began to reach people like crazy. And in the first 12 months, we baptized 52 new believers. And from a cold start, not knowing anybody, just relationships with our neighbors. And we began to plant other churches. By the time we launched that first church, we called it the Sanctuary. We were actually launching two other churches simultaneously. And that became the blueprint for what became a kind of a little movement and changed my heart on a lot of things. Especially, we'll just stay there. From there, I was asked to give leadership to our denomination for church planting. And so I was doing that in Canada. And in about 2008, I started that. And at the same time, the North American Mission Board was rethinking what it was doing for the Southern Baptist Convention, North American Mission Board. And they got a new president named Kevin Ezell, and the mandate was to focus on church planting. I was asked to be a part of that. So I was leading Canada in the Northeast, and then later became kind of the strategist for what we were doing, and started the Send Network, which became the church planting idea, where we built the systems for church planting. About 2015, Ed Stetzer asked me to work with him in starting something that we was first called Send Institute, later the Church Multiplication Institute, which is 72 different denominations working together as a church planting think tank. And how do we get better at church planting that actually results in planting from evangelism? So that was a fun season. And I moved back to Canada with some personal reasons with my mom's health. We just felt like there was 10 commandments and one of them was about that kind of thing. And so we moved back here, and I became I was asked, there was an organization in Canada already running for about 30 years called Church Planting Canada. And it's 25 different denominations working together. And so they asked me to lead that. And then later, I'm also leading the Canadian National Baptist Convention, which is kind of Southern Baptists in Canada. So I have those two roles that are working. So that's the mini Jeff life.